Welcome back to Mostly Growth, the number one podcast in product monetization. Do you guys have coyotes near you?
I think they're like everywhere. They're one of the most pervasive species.
Well, a coyote seems to be my newest neighbor. Taking my dog out at 6 a.m. I wasn't really paying attention. I was like bleary eyed. And we just like walk down the sidewalk. He does his business. We turn around to go back, and I lock eyes with a coyote. It's on the other side of the street, and it starts crossing over, and it like speeds up and was like trotting over. Little terrifying. What would you guys do in this situation?
Coyotes are smaller than wolves, right?
This was a pretty sizable coyote. My guess is probably like 75 pounds, something like that. My dog is about 25 pounds. Maybe he just had a lot of fur, but it seemed like a big creature.
Wow. I think that was the fear inflation index. I thought coyotes were only like 30 pounds.
It tracked us and we tracked it at the same time. It starts coming over. I just start like yelling at the top of my lungs. I think my neighbors must have thought I was crazy and just told it to go away and tried to like slowly make my way back up to my house without being totally attacked. So it does eventually decide like, hey, this guy isn't worth it. The coyote runs behind my house. And then as I get up to my front door, I see a second coyote with it. So like, it's a 2 coyote pair that apparently has a den behind my house. I live in city limits of Boston. This is Boston. This is not like out in the sticks.
Yeah, wow. You gonna charge them rent?
I need to. Do I get bear spray? Do I get a whistle? Pretty terrifying at 6 a.m. before I've had my cold brew.
I think LA has coyotes, right, Ben?
Yeah, we have, there's a lot of signs in my neighborhood that's like, if you see a coyote, make yourself really big and say, "Go away, coyote." I guess they understand English.
I might have said something like go away, but we had a few more expletives in the mix.
You just like do the beehiiv ad read in a really loud voice. I updated the SEO using the MCP this morning.
From Mostly Media, it's Mostly Growth. Go-to-market strategist Kyle Poyer and CFO CJ Gustafson break down how modern companies make money, covering pricing, monetization, and benchmarks in ways that make you better at your job. Tactics and playbooks for finance, product, and sales operators looking to be the CEO of their role. This is Mostly Growth.
All right, so today I wanted to talk about the go-to-market hiring market. Who's actually hiring, what roles are in demand, and whether AI is replacing go-to-market jobs.
All right, set the table for us. What qualifies as go-to-market? What traditional departments are we talking about here?
So the jobs included sales, marketing, business development, so like BDR, SDR, customer support, customer success, and solutions engineering. If you're touching a customer, you're included in this data. And the data came from Sumble, which has real-time job post data across 3 million companies. And so we specifically looked at US digital native companies. A subset of those were AI native companies.
These are tech companies. It's not like a paper mill is posting a job and we're picking it up here.
These are all tech companies. And one thing that's a little bit tough with the data is like a lot of companies have a B2B and a B2C motion. Like a Meta has a B2B arm, or an Amazon has a B2B and a B2C arm. We excluded any company that had a sizable B2C motion because it just kind of skewed the go-to-market data. Like it looked like marketing was everywhere. And so it was really B2B centric companies.
I've interviewed a bunch of CFOs from B2C companies on my podcast, and it's like an interesting conversation because it's not like they're going out to build a quota capacity model. It's more working really closely with marketing to figure out how to deploy like their demand gen budget and other activities that they're doing. So I'm glad it's not heavily focused B2C. It would be kind of weird if it was like, well, who is Strava hiring in the sales team? It's like, well, that's not really telling, I think, of what we're trying to solve here.
The data tracked over 120,000 go-to-market job posts since January 2025, and headcount of 1.4 million people working in B2B digital native go-to-market roles. So not the biggest industry, right, in the world, but like a pretty large number of people, pretty large number of job posts.
I'm also, not just the titles, but I'm excited to know what roles are growing or shrinking and what the overall sentiment on the job market is.
Yeah, the spoiler is things are not growing in general, but there are some exceptions.
I thought we were doing a different podcast today.
Hopefully not too much of a surprise. All right, well, let's get into one example because I think the data, it's a little bleak at first glance, but there's some really interesting stuff when you get into it. One example is that SDR job posts are down 21% in Q1 of 2026 compared to Q1 of 2025. But the companies that are supposedly killing the SDR job, AI companies, they're hiring the most SDRs of anyone.
This is hilarious. It's kind of like how people are saying that you can now vibe code your own CRM, but Anthropic is hiring a Salesforce admin.
Exactly. It's so bizarre. SDR headcount at AI native companies in the data set has more than doubled year on year. And as a percentage of go to market teams, AI native companies actually have 50% more SDRs as a percentage of their team compared to all B2B digital native companies. If you want to be an SDR job, the AI native companies are where you should look. And like, they're definitely not automating away this role. I was a little bit skeptical. I was like, is this data just like tagging companies wrong? Just a really quick search on LinkedIn found SDR hiring at Legora, Cursor, Langchain, Fireworks AI, Decagon, and even OpenAI is hiring SDRs right now.
Are you going to tell me next that Decagon's hiring a bunch of customer support people?
At this point, they probably are. I thought this was really interesting data. I mean, the fact that, yes, it is a really challenging time from an SDR perspective, and yet AI native companies are scaling this role really fast. Like, the disconnect was really odd for me and trying to make sense of what's happening here. I think that part of it is that it's just really hard to convince people to buy something without having a relationship with the people that work at the company.
On our last podcast, we talked about the plight of the permanent underclass. I say that in jest, so go back and look at it before you at me. But if you were thinking about the people who are earlier in their career, did this give you more hope for the journey of the SDR to go to become a sales leader? Because sales is a very apprenticeship heavy job. There are other jobs out there that you kind of figure out on your own. You can work from home. It's very hard to learn sales working from home. You need to be in a bullpen. You need to be able to listen to other calls. Did this bode well for like the college graduate looking for the SDR job or no?
Exactly. I think that for these AI native companies, they're much more explicit about this role being an apprentice role to try to get someone in sales for an AI native company. So they want to train you up to eventually be in sales. Now, that was always the pitch in SaaS too. SaaS companies were like, this is your path to work in sales. And then when you looked at it, like the graduation rates from SDR to AE were low.
But you said it was down 21%, except that the company's killing the position. Got it.
AI native companies only represented about 5% of all go-to-market hiring. And so this is the share of go-to-market hiring that's AI native is growing really quickly, but it's still actually quite a small number. And to me, I'm like surprised by this, honestly, because yes, I know AI companies are trying to be more efficient and all of that, but they've raised record amounts of money. Like there's so much money going into these AI native companies, and they are just not deploying it on hiring at the same rate that a SaaS company would.
Have you heard of Jevons paradox? Maybe Jevons. Have you heard of that?
I've seen it written, but I never knew how to pronounce it.
An economic principle stating that when technological progress makes a resource usage more efficient and cheaper, total consumption of that resource often increases rather than decreases. So it happened with coal, right? We ended up having more coal instead of less. It also happened with x-rays. So actually everybody goes to get an x-ray because it's cheaper to do one. And now we need actually more people to read the x-rays. So I'm wondering how much of this paradox applies to some of these hiring trends. Maybe an SDR isn't necessarily cheaper, but they can be so much more efficient in terms of their outreach that it makes a lot more sense. And therefore you have more demand to get someone to build pipeline.
There might be something to that. I think that there's a lot more interest in automated SDR campaigns. So a lot of companies are running an automated SDR program, but they still want someone for the high value accounts and they have a way better data on who the high value accounts are and then what are signals that these accounts might be in market or thinking about buying. For a lot of these AI companies, they also have a B2C motion, like a self-serve tier, free tier, but they also have an enterprise motion. And so they have a lot better data around who the B2C users are that they could sell top down to over time. And so I think that for these companies, it is fairly efficient to spin up a human-led SDR motion to essentially turbocharge what they're already doing in an automated way.
All right, so here's a better example. So LED lighting. Replacing older bulbs with highly efficient LEDs drastically drops the cost of lighting. Because it is so cheap, cities light more public spaces and businesses keep their lights on longer, sometimes increasing total energy usage. So does it make sense to have more SDRs if they can be more focused and more productive. I think that's what I was trying to get at.
I mean, SDRs are a motion that you scale if the ROI is there, right? Like if the CAC payback or the cost per qualified lead justifies it, like you kind of want to scale up that role as much as you can afford it. Anything you can do to make that role more efficient or more effective, it will result in more hiring for that position. There could be some of that within AI companies. I think also just in general, like the AI native companies have very high growth rate expectations. They're generally like a lot of them started self-serve or SMB. They're moving up market. They're realizing they need to change the tactics. Like what works up market is not what worked in a consumer capacity. So they're now looking a lot more like traditional B2B SaaS companies.
Hey, thanks for listening. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Ali and the team at Tabs are building something that directly addresses one of the biggest headaches I see finance teams deal with today. Pulling data from your ERP, your CRM, your FP&A tools, and your usage systems and actually making it all work together. If you're running usage-based pricing or complex contracts, you already know how this usually plays out. Contracts live in one system, usage data lives somewhere else, billing happens in another tool. RevRec gets layered on top at month end, and finance ends up just reconciling everything by hand to close the books. This is exactly the problem Tabs was built to solve. Tabs is an AI-native revenue platform built for controllers and CFOs. It brings together data from your ERP, CRM, and real product usage into a single system of record. From there, it automates billing, collections, and revenue recognition without finance having to duct tape workflows together every month. If usage-based revenue is core to your business, this is the future of how billing and RevRec get done. Go check them out at tabs.com/run. That's tabs.com/run.
When I looked to set up my first CRM at Growth Unhinged, I knew I wanted something that was actually AI first. The world has evolved. Most CRMs are still stuck in the 90s. I found Lightfield, the CRM that remembers everything and does the work for you. It joins all my sales calls, reads my emails, and has the full context on every account. At this point, Lightfield knows my deals better than I do. I haven't had to set up a single CRM dashboard. Instead, I simply ask Lightfield questions like, which deals in my pipeline are most likely to close, or who do I need to follow up with today? It even automatically prepares me for meetings with a personalized daily briefing, and setup was quick and surprisingly painless. Lightfield is my sales coach, RevOps analyst, therapist, EA, all in one. See Lightfield for yourself with a 14-day free trial. Connecting data from your inbox takes just 5 minutes, and you can migrate in under an hour. Go to lightfield.app, that's LIGHTFIELD.app, and use code MOSTLYGROWTH to get 3 months free. When I went all in on my newsletter, Growth Unhinged, last year, I quickly decided it was time to make the switch to beehiiv. I chose beehiiv because they're serious about powering the internet's best newsletters. beehiiv's all-in-one platform brings together newsletters, websites, and every tool you need to grow and earn. And they keep making it better. You can now launch, host, and monetize your podcast entirely on beehiiv. You can host webinars on beehiiv. And you can access beehiiv through the new MCP. I just use beehiiv's MCP in Claude Cowork to audit my site, prioritize SEO fixes, and analyze subscriber trends. It's my newest obsession. If you care about owning your audience, beehiiv is a no-brainer. Try beehiiv for free by going to beehiiv.com. That's BEEHIIV.com. Use Kyle30 for 30% off your first 3 months.
Give me another role. What else are you seeing?
AI companies are not automating away the SDR, but they are automating away customer support. So the AI native companies have 67% smaller support teams. Customer support's only 2.2% of go-to-market headcount at AI native companies, compared to 6.7% of go-to-market headcount for all kind of B2B digital native companies. That is something that is a kind of very substantially declining role. And the job post numbers fell faster in customer support than any other go-to-market role. So that is clearly on the automation chopping block right now.
Does this feel like an overcorrection to you?
I mean, I worry about that. Like, I think that for AI native companies, if they've never done human customer support, they don't really know what they're missing. Like, and their customers don't know what they're missing. Sometimes with support, that it looks like a number on a spreadsheet until you see the human interaction with a real life, like highly qualified support person versus a bot. And you're like, oh, I get why we need this. Like for me, when I was on Substack, they only had an automated customer support offering, and then moved to beehiiv and I could actually get in touch with someone. that like made such a huge difference to customer experience. Like I'm worried that for these AI native companies, they never have that data because they haven't really tested having people in the role.
And that's where my mind went to. I don't know how to feel about this unless I saw the retention rates and renewal rates associated with it. Many of these AI native companies, people underestimate that they've never been through a true renewal cycle yet.
Exactly. And so customer success teams are comparable in size for AI native companies versus everyone else. So it's about 12 to 13% of go-to-market heads work in customer success. The teams still see value in having people work with customers. It's just the kind of like lower volume or more repetitive support tasks, I think, are either things they want to automate away or have just become part of the customer success team's job versus having a dedicated team for it. That's one. I think another thing is, to me, it is really hard to automate customer support when you've been traditionally doing it in a human-led way. If you start automation first, I think your practices change. Like you create a lot more and better documentation. You identify where automation got it wrong or couldn't answer something. You build a doc for that, right? Like if you start and build the automation muscle early, I do think there's something about like you're just better at automating that function.
It's funny, I did this panel for Tabs and I was interviewing 3 founders about finding product market fit as AI native companies and how they've scaled their go-to-market orgs and the rest of the org differently. And I asked specifically, like, what is the bottleneck around hiring right now? And they're like, well, yes, it is engineers, but it's actually people to help implement the product. And a lot of that is falling on the customer success people because it's more of a technical implementation. So I expected this one to actually be up. The promise of AI is that it'll just set itself up. We're not completely there yet. A lot of it is context dependent. So I do think you need the human to understand the product and your environment to get it going.
The data set had separated out like a solutions engineering group that also included like probably the deployment engineer group. Forward deployed engineers were within solutions, and solutions were about 17% of go-to-market hiring. So that group is staffed at a higher rate than customer success, or at least for in terms of like open job posts right now.
I definitely expected that one to be up in terms of open job posts. But what's funny is they're actually asking for like an engineer to do that job.
Well, I think these products are like often fairly technical in order to like really get them up and running. And so, yes, you kind of need the change management and the human to kind of help the customer along that journey. But it's less like SaaS where you're teaching people how to use a product, and it's more about taking a process and automating it with AI. And so I do think that a lot of the implementations are more technical than they used to be.
What's the next position in go-to-market that you looked at?
All right, so we talked about SDRs, customer support and success. Let me just like take a step back. Go-to-market hiring in general, the job posts right now are down 15% year over year. So Q1 2026 compared to Q1 2025. And the trend did continue in April amidst the sell-off in SaaS stocks. So there were about 23,000 go-to-market job posts in Q1, but that is down. SaaS companies are hiring at slower paces than they used to, and AI native companies are hiring a lot more, but it's just still not making a dent in the overall market.
We covered SDRs, we covered customer support, customer success. Where are my salespeople at? Where are my account execs?
Sales is the number one largest role within go-to-market. It's about 40% of all jobs in go-to-market are in sales. And there's like at least a 2-to-1 ratio in terms of sales people to every other role in the go-to-market org. Now, what's interesting is like sales roles are actually quite resilient. They've stayed pretty consistent as a percentage of go-to-market jobs. It's the kind of thing that's like, yes, we still need people to sell AI, and no, it's not really being automated away.
Some of these bigger deals that are getting done by AI companies are being done by humans because like it's very hard to get JP Morgan Chase to say, you know what, we will agree to $1 million of Cursor without talking to anybody. Like at the end of the day, people want to do business with people. Hopefully those people are more efficient because they're using better tooling and the pod around them is more efficient, but that checks out that you still need A's.
We looked at like what technologies were being mentioned in job posts, and like Claude is taking off. What percentage of AE job posts do you think mention that they're looking for someone with Claude skills, like Claude Code or just Claude in general?
60.
0.2%. People really don't care if your AE knows how to use Claude. Like you're hiring the AE to build the relationship with the customer.
That's crazy. They're like, we actually don't want you to use a computer. We're going to give you a rotary phone and a machete. Go out and sell.
Like a lot of these job posts do probably say like familiarity with AI tools, right? Like there's probably some other code words. I'm just talking about Claude, like specifically as one product. Claude is creeping up in a lot of go-to-market roles, just not sales.
Remember when Jasper AI came out and they're like, this is going to disrupt every marketing role out there?
Claude got a lot better. The marketing job posts are down by 20% year on year. So it is down by more than all of go-to-market hiring. And it's kind of similar to the SDR role in terms of being down year on year. Marketing represents about 15% of all go-to-market job posts. But there is a silver lining within marketing, and it's growth marketing. So growth marketing job posts were actually up 8% year on year, while marketing ops is down, product marketing is down, events marketing is down. So if you're in marketing, you better add growth to your title right away.
Did you say events marketing was down? I thought we were having a comeback.
The job posts looking for event marketers are down. I think people are just maybe having it be more of a marketing generalist who can do events as opposed to having like a specialized title for it. When we talk to Emily Kramer, she talks about how like you've got the fuel and the engine. And the fuel are things like your messaging, your content, the design. And then the engine are like the channels, the tools, the analytics. Growth marketers are very much in the engine category. And I think like the pendulum is swinging from fuel to engine. And I'm worried that without really good fuel, the engine just stops being as effective as before.
The engine's just running on AI slop. It's running on that 83 gasoline. It's just not going to work.
I want to talk about another role that is growing. Any idea what is the fastest growing go-to-market role right now?
Is it that role you made up a couple months back?
Go-to-market engineering. Clay made it up, but I have been on the bandwagon of investigating it. But there is now 1,400 go-to-market engineers at US digital native companies. So the role like actually exists. Like there are real people in this role. It's 1,400 people with this role out of 1.4 million people that work in go-to-market. So like not the biggest role, but like it's starting to be real. And as a percentage of RevOps, so there is now one go-to-market engineer for every 50 people in RevOps at digital native companies. But within AI native companies, there's one go-to-market engineer for every 7 people in RevOps. AI companies are really eager to hire go-to-market engineers.
Is RevOps up or down?
RevOps is actually pretty stable. Like it is pretty flat year on year, which is much better than the rest of the go-to-market org. And so like these go-to-market engineer hires are not replacing RevOps. Like RevOps is actually holding up quite well, and this is additive to it.
That checks out.
I do have to say, the titles for this role are really odd. I called them go-to-market engineers, but when you dig in further, they're called like 18 different things. Some people call them like growth ops, AI ops, RevOps engineers. OpenAI called one a lead to opportunity systems engineer. And then my favorite is like, I've seen this title pop up, member of revenue staff.
What does that mean?
It's like member of technical staff, but member of revenue staff. And some of these roles are very vague, but then others are kind of code for a go-to-market engineer.
Sounds like someone who works in the maintenance department of an Audi dealership.
I was going to say, it's like you're hiring the Workday CTO to be a member of technical staff. Now you just got to hire the Workday CRO to be a member of revenue staff.
Can you just touch on ratios again? Because my brain has been permanently geared towards these go-to-market ratios of like in the enterprise, you can have one system engineer supporting 2 account executives. Maybe in the mid-market, it's 3. Like, are all the ratios going to change?
For every 10 salespeople, companies have about 4 solutions engineers, a little more than 2 to 1. You have about 4 people in marketing roles, 3 customer success, 2 RevOps, and 2 other. These are based in terms of job posts. And so job posts, they're pretty good proxy for overall hiring. I would just say take it with a grain of salt, because some jobs, like you have one job post, but you're hiring multiple roles. Other times you have multiple job posts, like for different regions or slightly different titles, but it's actually for one role. In aggregate, it should work out pretty much okay.
I'm wondering if a lot of these go-to-market roles become more generalist, where people are playing multiple positions on the court, because if they're using AI, theoretically, you should be able to go broader and deeper.
That is starting to play out, but it's hard to get super accurate data on it. With Sumble's data, they have the overall category, right, of like working and go to market. Then they have subcategories of like sales versus marketing, etc. They had more jobs that were hard to categorize as a subcategory, but they knew were in go to market. So that's telling me like something's going on in terms of either like vague titles, like sometimes you see someone just with a title that says go to market or founding go to market, right? So there seems to be like more people with vague titles. I just can't say with confidence, are they the generalists and that they'll always be a generalist, or do people just love being vague?
Vague poster. Yeah, I hate vague posters. What's fascinating is all the jobs that have the title that we're used to seeing are either flat to down. The one that is growing, go-to-market engineer, it's going to be hard to find a go-to-market engineer who has go-to-market engineer experience, right? It's someone who has to morph from a different role.
If you're trying to hire someone with 10, 15, 20 years of go to market engineer experience, like good luck. This is often someone that's like maybe a former engineer that's worked on go to market. Sometimes they're like in RevOps or marketing ops, but they're more technical. And so they like get really excited about this stuff. But then otherwise, it's just kind of people that like working on hard problems. They think in from like a technical and product lens. They're going to automate different aspects of go to market. We used to say in SaaS, like this is kind of like a growth PM who kind of owned a lot of the PLG funnel. The go to market engineer is kind of like that, but with an AI funnel.
Like, I'm trying to piece together, Kyle, from just like a macro perspective, is if the barriers to building software have been lowered by so much, and we think that distribution is the final mode here, and you pair that with the ungodly amounts of funding that a lot of these companies have raised, like I'd expect them to say, like, we have to be superior and go to market.
Companies are also under pressure, right? SaaS companies we've talked about are trying to get to like break even or profitable. There's a lot less funding available for SaaS companies. Go to market is important, but they don't have unlimited budgets. Like they can't just burn money right now. I think the other thing is that go to market hires are often very dependent on like how well they perform in terms of either growing pipeline or closing that pipeline. And I think for AI native companies, a lot of that's been organic and word of mouth. And there's just so much kind of pent up demand for AI products that they haven't needed to hire as many people and go to market to build that pipeline and close it. And then for everyone else, it's just really hard to get people's attention right now when there's this shiny new AI stuff and an AI initiative happening at the company.
What career advice would you have for somebody who's looking to get into go to market or plan their next role in go to market with the data that you have?
My main advice would be develop AI skills. So become a Claude pilled marketer or go to market engineer. The number of job posts that are explicitly looking for Claude skills is up like double quarter over quarter. It's becoming like one of the de facto requirements. And so I think looking at it is like the jobs that are up are more technical roles like growth marketing, and go to market engineering. Within other roles, the jobs that are up are people that have an ability to demonstrate these AI skills. And so just get really comfortable. It's hard to do because it feels like AI keeps changing constantly. But experiment with AI tools, look to try something with AI first, even if it might take a little bit longer. Like building that muscle of defaulting to AI, I think will make people so much more career optionality right now.
Well, I also think it's going to be used in an interview question in some way, shape, or form to like show me. Like, I interviewed Martin, the CFO of Vercel, and he was saying that every person who interviews for the company has to build something using V0 just to demonstrate like they know what they're doing. For a lot of these go-to-market roles, especially if it's an AI native company, they're probably going to want to see you demonstrate, you know what you're doing with their product.
Yeah, I think that a lot of these companies are going to have homework assignments. And it used to be like, hey, don't use AI in this homework assignment because you'll be cheating. Now it's like the whole point is to see how you use AI on this homework assignment. What was your biggest surprise, if any, in this data?
My biggest surprise was RevOps being flat because it seems like the most AI thing that like revolves around coordination. You're not selling to anybody, right? You're making the trains run on time, that like wasn't getting crushed. I thought that that was going to be something that people thought they could vibe code their way through, and you could have a salesperson. It's only 2% of their time that it takes for them to like rig up like Salesforce or something. So it says, hey, you need business minded people still to help the people selling to do that better.
Well, and those people can, in theory, have a bigger impact now than before because there's such a much more complicated tech stack. The data hygiene needs to be really, really good for the AI tools to not produce slop on the other end. Right now, at least, like RevOps is that glue that's going to make everything else more effective.
What was your biggest takeaway?
So the role outside of go-to-market engineering that mentioned Claude the most was actually in marketing. So marketing jobs had more requirements of Claude skills than RevOps, than obviously sales. And I don't normally think of marketing as being like the tip of the spear for AI adoption. Like marketers or creative people, they, work on ad campaigns, they like making videos, they like making content. Marketers have really become data driven, and they're often like the most forward thinking in AI of anyone in the go to market team. It surprised me, but it's also cool to see marketing have that mantle of driving AI adoption forward, because that's not what I would have thought a year ago.
You have to imagine just the speed of iteration for things like ad copy and the like. It's got to be miles and miles ahead of where it was 5 years ago. So I think it's also going to be a ton more expected out of the marketing team, even from CFOs. Because if some people think that part of the marketer's job can be done by AI, they're going to be looking at like what's the like return on having these people who are running these campaigns.
I was talking to someone who's a product marketing leader in tech, and she became a freelancer working on product marketing with a bunch of different companies. And she said her role is more valuable now than before. I mean, it's especially valuable on a fractional basis, but she's more valuable than before because for every company, like when you're setting up Claude, you need your context file. And that's like, who's your ICP? Who are your competitors? What's your differentiation? And then like that becomes the foundation for everything else that gets layered on top of that. And if you don't have a good product marketing strategy and positioning, your AI is going to be garbage. And so I think what's fascinating is that for some people that can kind of like reposition to be AI native, I think you can even find the fundamentals of your job. That's where the alpha is now.
Yeah, really well said.
Next up, we've got our segment, Business Blunders. A couple of blundery boys over here. Take it away.
CJ, do you have a beach parking pass?
Yeah, I do have one. Yeah, on my wife's car because we're not bringing my car to the beach.
Is it spelled correctly?
I sure hope so. I don't think they're going to let us in if it's not.
A South Shore town here in the Boston area called Hull just issued new parking permits. It's a beach town, and they misspelled parking on the parking permits. And so my business blunder is A, that they misspelled it, and then B, the Boston Globe wrote an article about it, and they didn't include anywhere in the article what the misspelling of parking was. How did they misspell it? What was misspelled about it?
2 hours?
And I had to go in the comments. It was Packring was what it was written as, apparently. Pakring.
The people of Hull, that's how they communicate to one another.
I was like, did they have an H in it? Was it like a Boston thing? It was like packing, and they were like, oh, there's an R in there?
I bet marketers have like this recurring nightmare where they order like a print run of like 500,000 t-shirts. Like they made a spelling error and they can't do anything about it.
I used to be that person that would be terrified of misspelling, and now I YOLO a lot of stuff. And I had a misspelling in a LinkedIn post recently, and someone commented being like, I see you purposefully misspelling so that people know this is not AI, that you wrote it.
All right, I got one for you. My friend Harry tweeted this out, which if this is true, this is amazing. Amazingly horrifying. RevSwap AI. Trade dollars with other startups, book it as revenue.
Oh no.
RevSwap AI is the world's first peer-to-peer revenue laundering platform for SF startups. You give us 1 million, we give you 1 million back. Now you have 1 million in ARR. Math. It's definitely a joke now that I read it more.
I mean, calling itself a revenue laundering platform for SF startups is definitely a joke, but that's pretty good.
It plays into the old adage that it's like 10 founders in Silicon Valley know each other, and they all like, I'll buy your ERP if you buy my CRM, if you buy my HRIS, and it just goes around and around. And that's why they say 20 million in ARR, a lot of startups hit the cliff, not because the product's not good, but because they run out of friends who are startups to buy it.
That does remind me, did you see this ad campaign that General Catalyst put together?
I was in a place where I couldn't put on the volume, so I couldn't hear it, but I saw it had like a robot thing walking around. What was it?
It was their play on like the Microsoft versus Apple ad, PC versus Apple. It was meant to make like VCs look terrible and like GC look like a sane person, and it totally backfired. I encourage people to watch it. It is really cringe.
Didn't it make them like look like they were making fun of what founders were building, like the people they support?
Yeah, it just made them look totally out of touch.
Didn't need to publicize that thought.
Mostly Growth is a Mostly Media production. Executive produced by Ben Hillman. That's me. Additional production by Steve Sarasoli. Nothing said on this podcast is intended to be business or investment advice. It's the sole opinion of CJ, Kyle, and Ben. Just some guys who love talking growth. Mostly. If you like this podcast, hit subscribe and give it 5 stars. It only takes like 2 seconds and our algorithm overlords love it. Drink water, call your mom, and have a good day.